Hello, Robert.
Hello.
We're sitting here at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, a place of color. Can you tell us how's your relationship to colors and how you get your passion for colors?
That's a great question. I really like that one. I know exactly how it happened. You know, when I was a young paint maker, standing in front of the 3-row mill, watching waves of color come at me hours and hours a day, I realized after a little while that the primary importance of what I was doing was the emotional content of color rather than sort of the descriptive content of the color. And so the emotional resonance of every color sort of came into me, and I took that into my painting and became a real focus of my painting.
Can you tell us a particular encounter with a conservator that formed your interest in conservation topics?
Oh yes, the first time I had exposure to conservators was at a Smithsonian conference in 1989, where I was asked to be a presenter. I was just totally blown away by the conservators and their camaraderie, how much they cared for the art. And I felt that, you know, they cared about art and how to preserve art much more than the artist did, and I really respected that.
Mm-hmm. What are the characteristics of the conservation paints, and can you tell us about the manufacturing process?
Yeah, they're made exactly the same way that an artist's color would be made. Mixing on a high-speed disperser, milling on a 3-row mill, and then filling however way you can. Conservation colors since they're so small, they're filled differently than oil colors, but it's made exactly the way that an oil color is.
Yes, what is the crucial difference between manufactured paints and if I make them by myself as a conservator?
Well, if you want to try to make it yourself, you probably could, but it would be very difficult. You have problems of solvent evaporation while you're doing it, and then how do you deal with that? And then for us, we have formulas that have been very much evolved and are very specific. And working in a studio with just a muller, you have really an inability to get that consistency from batch to batch of repeatability. And so I think it's difficult physically to handle the things and to handle the materials, and then difficult to repeat that if you needed to do that. And clearly, grinding is an important part of this process, and you can't grind with a muller anywhere near to the degree that we can with a 3-row mill. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that people say that they really like about our colors, is how finely ground they are, and that takes the machinery to do it.
Yes. And which painting medium do you recommend to use with conservation colors, and does the medium has an influence also on the stability of the paint films?
Yeah, that is the most frequently asked question we have, is what solvent should we use with these colors? And so on the technical data sheet, there's sort of a list that we've accumulated from discussions with conservators in both America and Europe. And isopropanol is one that I think is probably most frequently used, but there are other solvents that evaporate in different ways, and from a 40% mineral spirit to the oxygenated solvent that we use. And so the list is there for people to try. If you're using it as a painting medium in order to increase gloss, then we have the galdehyde resin solution. Mm-hmm. And in terms of that material solvents affecting stability, that's nothing to worry about. I mean, the solvent is in there for a very short period of time, and so it's not going to change anything chemically.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yes. Gamblin conservation colors are my favorite colors for retouching since 2007.
Oh, good.
And I work in Austria since more than 10 years, a country with very strong tradition in the retouching with resin oil paints. And how would you convince an Austrian restorer to use Gamblin conservation colors?
Well, I wouldn't presume to try to influence somebody to change something that they have that they have earned from decades worth of working with a material that they have mastered. But I would think that the advances with these contemporary resins that we have that are proven to be so stable, that would be influence enough to get them to at least to explore the idea of moving away from a material, the resin oil colors. We know that natural resins are unstable. We know that oil changes as it ages over the first 25 years. And so we know that there's going to be color change in that. Why not explore something that we know that there's not going to be color change? That would be my perspective.
Robert, what kind of varnish would you recommend to be used with Gamblin conservation colors?
Well, most large studios have spray booths, and if you do, then there's a whole range of contemporary low molecular weight synthetic resins that have been developed over the last 20 years or more. And apparently new ones that are being identified as having stability. Any one of those, I think, would work well. I mean, they all have different optical properties, and conservators gravitate towards certain ones versus others because of how they look in terms of the work that they've done. So any of those, I think, would work really well. The only thing I wouldn't recommend, and I don't think would make any sense at all, would be to put a natural resin on any of these retouchings made with Laripol. It just wouldn't make any sense to have something so unstable put on top of something that was so stable. If you're doing a brush coating, then there's probably only one that I know of that will work well, and that is Regal Res 1094, that is dissolved in a zero aromatic solvent.
Yeah, Robert, as my own experience as a conservator, I find it often quite challenging to retouch brown glazed colors, like in Dutch paintings, for example. Do you have any recommendations for that problem?
Yeah, well, we have specifically a line of 4 colors of transparent earth colors that are really sort of tailor-made for that process. Contemporary earth colors are more opaque than they were a few hundred years ago, but this line of transparent earth colors is beautifully transparent, and I think that they would really facilitate that work.
Your distributor for Gamblin conservation colors is Deffner Johann, and this is a company with a very long tradition. What role plays for you the connection between end user, you as a manufacturer, and for us as conservators?
Oh, this is a critical piece of the puzzle. I mean, we've developed a fantastic relationship with Deffner Johann, but one of the things that is, I think, most important is that we as a company has always wanted to have direct contact with the end user, but that's not possible from where we are to European conservators. There's language differences, there's time differences, but Deffner and Johann is in the studios and has the contact and has a real deep appreciation for our materials, and so they do that work really beautifully.
And you work as an artist as well, and do you have an opinion how your own paintings should be conserved or treated in the future?
Oh, I would be so pleased if my paintings were loved enough that they ended up needing to go to a conservator for cleaning at some time in the future. And to help that conservator out, I only use Regal Res 1094, and so the varnish is going to come off very easily, and so they can replace it very, very quickly.
Good, thank you. These have been my questions. Thank you for the interview, Robert.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.